Welcome to the Primetime Training Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Baher, and today we have a brilliant guest, Coach Christ Korfist. Coach Korfist has been a high school coach for almost 30 years. He is the founder and owner of the Slow Guy Speed School and a co-founder of both the Track and Field Consortium and RPR. He has consulted with many professional sports teams, including teams in the NBA, NFL, MLB, and Rugby League. Finally, he is an advisor for sprints at the Auckland University of Technology. Coach Korfist, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. I'm so pumped you're on here. But throughout the show, I want to talk a lot about the foot because I'm very interested in it. I know you are as well. The glutes, ankles, stuff like that. So let's just get started.
Stuff.
You talk a lot about the tripod.
Okay.
But other than that, what would you say, just to give us like a good baseline, what makes a good foot?
I think a good foot can come in a lot of shapes and sizes. It just has to be a competent foot, which means there has to be some stability in the foot, where ideally, you want to have a tripod where there are 3 points touching on the ground. Really good feet, if you pull out the inside of the shoe and you look at it, you'll see a wear pattern in the heel, a wear pattern in the underneath the pinky toe, and a wear pattern underneath the big toe, and then probably a big indent where the big toe goes.
Okay.
And then you got a bad pair of shoes, whether it's a bad pair of shoes or bad feet, you can see all kinds of different things. But I think my opinion is that when the brain feels a stable foot, whatever shape it might be, it will allow you to push. Now, if it's not a completely stable foot, it may not give all the power to that foot. There may be a neurologic inhibitor or regulator that would not allow you to put as much pressure in that foot because it knows it's not a stable foot.
Gotcha. Okay, so I was actually looking at my insoles today for my basketball shoes, and I have like a big spot under the big toe. And the same kind of with the pinky, but then my heel, it looks like there's a lot on the inside heel. Would that, like a lot of wear and tear on the inside heel? What do you think that is from, I guess?
I don't know.
No.
It could be your shoe. It's because shoes are built to guide you to certain places. So if you've got a stability shoe, it may be tilting you one way or another. It could be you. It could be an imbalance. It could be a hip weakness. It could be a foot weakness. It could be 1,000 different things.
Gotcha.
That's why with RPR, we like to it's great to go through and know that you've got stuff lined up. And then you can eliminate a lot of your issues as far as or figuring things out. Like, all right, I know his hip is on. The hip is stable, so I know it's not a hip issue. And then you can work backwards from there once you start eliminating things that you know are functioning.
Gotcha. In regards to like the roles of the toes, I've heard the toes, like sometimes people say they need to retract. Sometimes people just call them like they're like brakes almost. What would you say is the role of the toes?
I think it depends on the shape of your foot and your toe.
Really?
I think they can be brakes sometimes. I think they can also lead to a spinning foot where if you've got the outside, the pinky toe or the second toe, or maybe all four, they're all curled under, you're going to spin that foot until you get traction. So ideally, you want all 5 to be able to grab because the body then knows it's got something to grab and pull from. So if you've got like your outside 3 are tucked in, you're going to spin until something grabs in that foot that you can pull your body through from and hinge.
Gotcha.
Rocker through.
So do you not want the heel to spin?
No, that's too much time on the ground.
Gotcha. Okay.
You want it to tilt in, but you don't want a spinning heel. When you see the heel when you see someone running at you, you should see the inside of that heel coming straight ahead at you.
That makes sense.
That's a good foot.
Okay. What about the big toe? What's the role of the big toe?
Well, ideally, everything rolls, all that energy rolls through that last departure point of your big toe, and that's what gives you that last little flick and that little guidance. And in my opinion, what you miss in your foot, your arms make up for. So if you've got a foot that's pushing you 10 degrees to the right, you're going to have to swing your left arm to counterbalance you to get to that target. If you want to see a great example of that, it's on that documentary, I think it's Rising Phoenix or Phoenix Rising. It's about the history of Special Olympics. And they have an athlete who had both his legs cut off, and he's a long jumper, and he's got on the cheetah legs. And they did an outstanding job of droning him from the top so you could see him run. And you can see the counterbalance between how the cheetah leg is pushing off the ground, and he's got to counterbalance that. And he swings his arm really wide. And to me, that said it all. That here's a guy who's ideally the cheetah legs are perfect. I mean, it's a perfect spring, but again, he's got to swing them. You don't have some bends and things in there. And for him to get to his target, he's got to swing. So if right leg is swinging wide, you've got to swing that left arm wide. So the sum of everything is going to be to whatever your target is. Again, there's that neurological thing, or the neurologic impact of targeting and your body getting you to that target as efficiently as possible.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I wanted to talk about arches.
Okay.
With your athletes, do you specifically train the arches in any way?
We do a lot. Well, we don't do a lot, but our warm up is a single leg squat, just an ankle rocker squat. And we try to keep our toes up as high as we can. And the idea is as soon as you lose that functionality of the arch, your toes drop. So we want to improve our ankle rocker range of motion while keeping our toes up. That way we're strengthening the arches in our foot. It's a really simple exercise, and it seems to work really well.
Yeah, I've done it with my sister too. I trained her a little bit. And it seems to be really good.
Yeah. Simple. I mean, there's so many things that are just simple, but nobody makes money off of simple.
Yeah, that's true. So I wanted to talk about pronation and supination a little bit too. A lot of people don't like pronation and they are scared of it, I guess, in some way. And some people I've found actually love it. So what is your definition of pronation? Just the arches flattening. And then do we want it, I guess?
I think, again, it's going to be an individual thing because everyone's foot is shaped differently. Their musculature is different. And what's going into that is different. So I think for some people it works really well. Some people need some correction to get there because maybe it's too far and you're pushing off somewhere else. I think we need, if you can't train to get the guidance to get everything you can to go forward, that's where you need some help. So if you're someone who needs help, guidance to get to where you need to go with your foot through that range of motion, and you're not getting it, you're going to push off somewhere else, and it's going to create a different running style.
Okay. Yeah.
Did that answer your question? I kind of meandered there.
Kind of, yeah. So
another way of looking at it is this: if you've got someone with really wide hips, it's going to be hard to do certain things. So a lot of it is going to be structural. Are there ways to correct that and strengthen through it to get better, to get to what you want to do? There are. But again, it's an individual thing where you've got to look at the whole body and see what their strategy is and how much you can change their strategy and how much would be going too far to change their strategy. You can't make everyone look like a Safa Powell.
Yeah.
So you've got to do the best that you can. And I'm not using Usain Bolt because he's got scoliosis and he's 6'6" and all that other stuff. All those other things come into play there. Safa Powell, I think, is the best human role model that we can have. He's symmetrical. He was good. So we can't make everyone get to that point because we don't have those body structures. But we can do a good job getting someone faster with our knowledge of, the foot's got to get you somewhere. I
Okay.
don't think you'll ever see a great sprinter without great feet. It may not look perfectly as you would think as the stereotypical what a great foot looks like, but there are elements that go into it that get them there. So if you've got someone like the GOTA people who say you got to run on the outside of your foot and stuff like that, usually those people, those athletes who do well with that have tibial torsion.
Okay. Yeah.
So their shin is bent or crooked or twisted, and they'll never get to their big toe. But they have found other mechanisms to get them to go where they need to go. So I've had two really good athletes that had really bad tibial torsion, and the idea of getting them to their big toe was never going to happen. Now, I could bring them maybe 5 degrees in a little bit more to get them a little bit closer to that, but the idea that I was going to get them there, I would have caused an injury at that.
Yeah. So we want to
you've got to look to see what you're starting with and know the parameters of what that body type can do, and then train to that. Someone with that tibial torsion, that's why I invented those Captain Morgan runs. That was really great for people with a tibial torsion, because now I could get their hip to do what their foot didn't do. So something is giving that forward momentum, and now I could hit on the outside of that foot and still get somewhere because the hips are doing the job of the foot. So if you can figure stuff out like that, you can create your own little compensation patterns to make up for what's missing in some things.
No, that makes a lot of sense because, I've actually tried GOTA and they're all like, this is the one way you need to run. But yet there's people that have so many different structural, differences. So to apply that to just everybody doesn't make a ton of sense. But no. I think there is an optimal way to do things. And like you said, getting closer to it, like rolling off the big toe, is something everyone can strive for, maybe.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a lot of differences.
There's going to be a lot of differences.
Okay.
That's your job. That's the art of a coach, is knowing what you got and getting the most out of what's staring at you.
Yeah. It's good. I've heard you say if a runner has good hips and good feet, you can make them fast. So yeah. How are the feet and the glutes supposed to function together, I guess, in gait? Is that too big of a question?
Not really. The glute is your juice. When you have something solid to push off of, you're going to get a lot of power out of that. And so the hips are going to keep you in alignment. So when you push, everything's lined up to push you forward.
Okay. And I have another question about the glutes.
Yeah.
You hear people talk about quad dominance versus glute dominance. Do you think that's a real thing, or is it just how their biomechanics are, I guess? Are they compensating with their quads?
They could be. And quads are very important when you sprint. We're finding out, they have a role. So I don't try to, again, it's going to be an individual basis. You have to look at how they're moving, what you can change. I personally don't have some kind of machine that tells me the percentage of what your glute versus quad or hamstring versus quad ratios are. But I know what it looks like when someone is really quad dominant. And a lot of times it's not good. People have been in the squat rack way too much with really poor form and really bad angles. You can see that a mile away. And those are people that you've got to get some glute and some hamstring involved in that run if they're going to get anywhere.
So do you do that with not weight room stuff, but separate from running, or do you give them certain cues so that they use their glutes and hamstrings more?
I with exercise and drills, you have to earn the right to run like that. And that's the purpose of drills and exercises, to try to get to what your goal is. You use the exercises to help whatever, in our case, sprinting, to get you to run faster. And so if that means you need weight or don't need weight, or you just need to understand what's going on and look, that's a good start. I'm finding a lot of stuff is happening in the spine too, that the spine is really important. And if you can't control your spine, you can't control anything else. And so many people can't control their spine.
Do you mean like being stable when you run and not a lot of
I'm not so concerned about the side to side. I'm concerned about the pelvis waving back and forth, or the pelvis tilting, or the rib cage not being able to hold all the force. And so once you pop that rib cage out, naturally the pelvis is going to drop down.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got to pair those two halves together. I mean, literally, you're looking at a half of a body held together with some vertebrae and the psoas muscle, which is a little tiny guy, maybe the size of my, thumb. So there has to be all these components that help hold everything in place while you move. Because if you have the center of this mass moving back and forth and these legs spinning underneath, you're not really sure where those legs are spinning to or how they're hitting on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hear it when you hear people run, and I like to be out on the street because you can hear what's going on. You can hear different patterns come in, and know from the sound of those different attributes, know what's going on.
So our pelvis, how should it be tilted when we sprint?
It should go like this.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Pelvis isn't going to hold still because that's where we're getting all of our torque from. Then you can tie in, so when this pelvis is going forward, then you can tie in the opposite lat, and then you can tie in all, you can draw these triangles throughout the body of all the stability and where you're creating all this torque.
Gotcha.
But ideally, something is twisting one way, the other side is twisting the other way, and that's what's creating all the tension to release. That's why these kids that squat a lot of weight and they do everything off two legs, they don't run very well.
No.
And people say, well, Ben Johnson squatted 700 pounds, but Ben Johnson already could sprint. He could already do that. Yeah. In the weight room, I think we take away the fluidity and the movement and the grace of sprinting by just thinking that we can put a lot of weight on our back and stand up with it. And I've seen so many kids that can squat a lot that can't run, more so than I've seen the opposite.
Yeah.
People say, well, Bo Jackson was jacked. He ran 10-1. Bo Jackson was run 10-1 no matter what.
Yeah.
He was going to run 10-1. Some people are just built to go.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the weight room. I know I kind of hurt my back when I was in high school because of it, I think. So yeah, I'm right with you on that. So I've also heard you say fast sprinters have great glute medius. So why is that so? And how do you improve glute med function?
Well, glute med is what holds your hip in place. So your hip doesn't travel outside of your, where your foot is. So once your hip comes out, your foot's going to hit dead center, and now it becomes a break rather than something that's getting you to go. For glute med, anytime you run with your arms over your head, that challenges your glute med. Run with a 10-pound bar over your head, that challenges your glute med. Side planks done properly can work your glute med. There's a ton of things. 4-way hip.
Okay.
Properly can work your glute med.
Thank you. So now, how do you define ankle stiffness? Because I've heard a lot of definitions. And then how do you train for it?
Well, ankle stiffness is when you hit the ground, how much does your ankle deform? So the moment you hit the ground, there has to be a moment of stiffness because that is how the energy travels up and down the chain. Whatever gives, you lose. That does not return. So as little deformation as possible on contact, but after that point, your ankle becomes a hinge. Your ankle rocker comes into play. So it hits stiff, and then at that point, it's got to help move your center of mass forward over that thing that's stuck in the ground, which is your leg. So it's going to go from something that's incredibly stiff to something that has to move most of the mass forward in about 6/100ths of a second. Then when you hit that end range of motion, that's hopefully when you start to lift up your heel, and then the ball of your big toe becomes your hinge on the ground, which is what stores even more energy and flicks you forward in some direction.
Okay.
So a lot that goes on. And a lot of it has to deal with how you're going to move that mass forward, because you're only on the ground for a 60-degree arc. If you go 360 degrees all the way around, your foot hits the ground, your mass travels 60 degrees. During that time, you've got to see, the faster that mass travels forward, the faster that foot's going to come off the ground. So you could do all the foot quick drills, get your feet off the ground quick and stuff like that. It doesn't do anything, because we have to get, that's all a byproduct of how fast your mass is moving forward. Now, if you don't travel that whole 60 degrees, you're missing out on time on the ground, which is what's actually generating you to go forward.
Gotcha. So basically we get all this energy coming up to the foot. Once it goes through the foot, maybe to the glutes, then we need it to not relax, but allow the shin to travel over.
That's right.
Okay.
It does not relax. There's nothing relaxed.
No.
It's a movement pattern that it's built to do.
So some people I've watched talk about the ankle locking. So that wouldn't be a good thing with what you're saying. So you don't want to keep your ankle locked the whole time.
No, because then you lose all that energy being stored and released.
Mm-hmm.
Ankle has to move. You may see people come in and it looks like their foot is dorsiflexed and film. We really don't know what their range of motion is on that ankle. We just look at side film of someone running. Nobody actually puts that person on the table and goes, all right, Steve Johnson, you just ran 10 flat. Let's see what your ankle actually looks like based on this film. What is your movement pattern?
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's so personal about how we move that we look at one quick film and see some guy run 9.8 and try to mimic that. And we really don't, nobody's ever put that person on the table and they actually see what their range of motion is and watch them move or jog or warm up. And I think some of the best videos on YouTube is some guy went and videotaped Usain Bolt warming up and doing all of his exercises and things like that. And now you can really see how he moves in a slowed down version. There's good ones of, what's the other Jamaican? Not Asaf Apollo. I can't think of his name. He was really good for a short while. Anyway, the training films of people warming up on the other track and see what they're doing. It's fun to watch because then you can see slowed down what they look like and what they do and what everyone shares.
Mm-hmm. No, I've never thought of that before. That's a good tip. Thank you. You came up with the spring ankle series. I actually did it today.
Yeah.
How often do you implement that with your athletes?
Everyone?
Yeah. Like how often?
Oh, perfect world. You're doing that 3 times a day?
3 times a day. And is that every 6 hours?
Oh, however you want to break it down.
Okay. I just asked because Keith Barr, he talks about tendon isometrics and like every 6 hours, the cells in the tendon become.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. You've heard of that?
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
He does good stuff.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. So I say if you do it 3 times a day, gold medal, 2 times a day, silver medal, once a day, bronze. You don't do it at all, you're not on the stand.
There you go. I've heard you mention Slack in the last couple of your videos. Could you define that and then explain how athletes get better at dealing with Slack?
Slack is the lack of tension between the insertion and origin of muscle when at rest. So when you go to move, your body has to adjust to pick up that slack in the muscle throughout the whole chain so it can actually fire.
Mm-hmm.
So someone who does not have a lot of slack or who doesn't deal with their slack well, they take forever to load their vertical jump. They go way down, all the drama, and then come up. Someone who's really good at dealing with slack is they just pop straight up in the air. So ways to deal with slack, we do, any kind of movement before you engage in a bar. So you're not touching a bar and then you grab the bar and go.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do a squat, you put the bar maybe a quarter of an inch off your back. So your initial movement gets that slack, takes up the slack, and then the residual is the actual power.
Huh.
Jump onto something short and then jump up. So a little mini hop and then a big jump. Jump up onto a little quarter-inch mat or a half-inch mat and then jump up. Do that single-legged. All those things get you springier.
Gotcha.
And you'll find people who do not deal with their slack very well. They're on the ground forever after you give them they do the mini jump, and it takes them forever to gather and go up.
So when you're training people to help develop their ability to deal with slack, say that you got a person that's not very good, how long does it take to see improvements with that?
Oh, I don't know. Everyone's different.
Everyone's different. Okay, yeah.
It's different, because you start getting into, you look at the whole chain, you start looking at spinal stuff, and, it may take a while. Hopefully it's pretty quick. Everyone's different, and then you have the problem of after they leave here, what else are they going to do?
Yeah, that's true.
I have people that say, well, I go to Lifetime Fitness 3 days a week and then I come here. What do you do at Lifetime? Well, we're squatting and we're deadlifting and we're leg extension, leg curls. You're wasting your money coming here then. I can't help you. For every one good workout I give you, you're doing 3 bad ones. You're not helping the cause here.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone's different. I wish I could control my athletes all the time.
Yeah, that's funny. So when I felt my
state track meet this year, we run prelims. We run graded prelims. Everyone go to bed. We need to get rest for finals. And what happens? Everyone out and play basketball. What are you guys doing? We just went out and played basketball. But you ran 3 races today. You got a final tomorrow. Yeah, I'll be okay. No, you won't be okay. Go to bed. Yeah. Everyone has the same problems.
Yeah, that's true. When I was in high school, speaking of, I did something called the jump manual, and it's a lot of there's one day of the week where you do a lot of you do one lifting exercise and then you do depth jumps in between. Yeah. So it's kind of like I was, I don't know, activating the muscle and then trying to deal with slack at the same time.
Yeah, it's a French contrast thing.
Yeah. So I felt like the most athletic I'd ever been, and I injured myself. But anyways, I was thinking that probably has something to do with slack, probably has something to do with my central nervous system.
Yeah. That's why Cal Dietz does French contrast on his triphasic stuff. You're kind of going through all the different neurological environments that the muscle needs to go through in athletics.
Do you use French contrast?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So shin angles, I know they change throughout, say, a race, but just for sprinting, at top speed, what is a good shin angle? I know it might differ based off person, but what is a good shin angle?
As low as possible?
Low as possible.
Again, it's going to be dependent on what your ankles can do and where you're pushing and how well you're pushing out. But the longer you keep that shin angle, the longer you're going to push horizontally. And we want to keep that as long as possible. It's hard to do because, again, it takes an incredible amount of strength to keep your body in position as you're pushing forward when you get up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you're looking at hinges or rockers. I keep saying hinge because Ken Clark and I have been talking about stuff, and we're looking at these robotics papers, and they talk about the hinge. So you've got to hinge over that ankle, and then you've got to hinge over that big toe. The more you can hinge over that big toe, the longer you can keep your shin angle down. If you stop hinging over the big toe, you go straight up and down, and then you are at max velocity.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
In robotics, they just want to get over the ankle to get you moving forward because for some reason they're obsessed with getting robots to run fast bipedally when they already have a four-legged one that can outrun us. So why not just keep the dog-looking thing? But I guess you got to look like a human. And they're getting good at that first hinge of the ankle, but they're a long way on that big toe hinge.
Yeah.
They find other ways. They've compensated around it, but it's hard to replicate our tendon system with non-human parts.
Yeah, the tendon is crazy.
Yeah.
I've seen in some of your videos you talk about a heel flick. So I don't know how much I heel flick, but how do you get better at it? Because
practice it.
Practice it?
Yeah. We do little mini prime time runs or stiff-legged runs with really not so much emphasis on everyone's really fast up front. We want to come down fast and then load that energy and load that foot so we get that flick. So the flick is just a better controlled release of that energy through your foot.
Okay. And all the best athletes do a heel flick?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I have a buddy up in Iowa, and he
Where
so he goes to school at Dordt University.
Where?
Dordt University. It's in Sioux Center.
Where are you from?
So I'm originally from Oregon, but I live in Tennessee now. I went to school in Iowa for a year.
Where'd you go to Iowa?
Dordt University. Same with him. Yeah.
And it's Sioux Center?
Sioux Center. Yeah.
Where's that?
I think it's like it's in between Sioux City and Sioux Falls.
Okay. Get it.
I believe
okay.
so. Yeah. It's a small little town.
You believe so? You went to school there for a year and you're not sure where you went?
What?
You're not sure where it was? You went
No, yeah. Yeah, not great with directions sometimes. Geography, I guess. But yeah, so he runs track for them and he watches your stuff. He's a big fan. And his question is, I know that he uses overspeed training for speed development, but I wonder if there's any overspeed you can do for jumping and lateral movement, like how to overstimulate your body in those areas.
Yeah, that's the Cal Dietz hang jumping from the rubber bands from the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Overspeed.
Gotcha. What about lateral movements?
Push someone sideways.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
You don't need a step or two.
Huh.
You don't need a bunch. I mean, it's great to have a bunch. But again, it's the cool thing about overspeed. It's really about, again, getting your center of mass over that stick as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And when you do overspeed sprinting, the only way you can do that is if you run perfectly. So you can take someone who does not have great form, but when you pull them and you get rid of the fear factor that they're going to fall, and you get the right speed, they run perfectly.
That's cool. What was I going to ask?
Because the brain knows if I don't run perfectly, I'm in trouble. I'm going to eat the pavement.
Yeah. Is that kind of the same thing with like the stumble reflex?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. So I've heard people talk about the transverse arch, and I have two questions for you. How important is this during sprinting? And then what was the other one? How important is this? And how do you implement it in your training? If you do.
I don't. It's important in sprinting. All the arches are important because, again, that's what's keeping the foot in place and transferring that energy. And remember, it's got to go up and down the chain. So whatever you lose, whatever gets dissipated because of your lack of structure, never comes back.
Yeah.
It's gone. It dissipates throughout the body. So when it returns, you don't get hurt, which is what's brilliant about our body. We just do our arch stuff.
Yeah.
That seems to to cover it all. Again, I get an hour. I get an hour to 90 minutes with people. I've got 1,000 tools.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta pick the ones that are best for your time, most bang for your buck for time.
So if you had unlimited time throughout a day, how many, let's just say, how many training sessions would you do?
One.
You do one?
One. Maybe if in a perfect world, I would do one and there's no competition coming up.
Yeah.
I would do one every 3 to 4 days.
One every 3 to 4 days.
That's when I've had my very best results. No matter what I did, you needed that extra day of rest to get the most bang for your buck.
Okay.
And I can't do that. I can't do that.
Yeah, that's true. How long are those sessions?
Hour.
So an hour every 4 days, pretty much.
After that, you're out of gas. You're out of juice.
Huh. Okay.
All of your energy systems are depleted after an hour.
And same thing with the central nervous system, right?
Yeah.
Every 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
But again, that doesn't pay bills. That doesn't. Athletic directors don't like that. Nobody likes that idea.
So would you do the same thing with the practice, like for basketball?
Let's see. That's a field sport, and there's a lot of skills involved in that.
Yeah.
That would never float. You could never go to an athletic director or a coach or anyone and say, "Yeah, coach, I'm good every 3 to 4 days," and that's it. Nobody buys into that. Nobody wants to actually look at the science and see what actually happens because that's not tradition. Remember, people get paid based on a 5-day-a-week, 40-hour-a-week job. And if you show up for an hour every 4 days and you still say, I just need this job, and we're getting bang for a buck. I said, no, you got to be here every day. You need to be here 8 hours a day. You can't be a track coach or a sport coach and say, yeah, we only practice 1 day a week.
Yeah, that wouldn't fly.
No, I get away with it where I coach because my head coach believes in what I do. And there are kids that we practice 1 day a week. And then we race on the weekends. And we get really good results. We get really good improvements. Because our head coach and athletic director has bought into the fact that whatever we are doing to make the kids better, we'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if someone's not getting better practicing 1 day a week, then maybe I need to add to that. But if I'm getting bang for the buck and they're healthy all season, not even little nagging things like shin splints or anything like that. Isn't that a perfect scenario where I have a completely healthy kid that's running his very best at the end of the season at the state meet?
Yeah.
Or I have a healthy team. I have in football, I finished the season with the same 22 I started with.
That would be nice.
That would be nice. Imagine how that would change the NFL.
No, that would do a lot.
It would do a lot. But again, they're going to practice every day, and they're going to do what they traditionally want to do because they got to grind and they got to do all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a high school track coach. I can get away with a lot.
Does this apply to younger athletes as well? Or because they have more of an aerobic base and stuff, they recover really quick.
Younger athletes, you can push harder. Or they can go more often just because they're growing and their body is really quick at recovering. Like Cal Dietz did a thing with his son where he was, what's the machine that he used? One of the monitoring machines.
No, I listened to this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know what it's called.
He works for the company. Crap, I'll get in trouble for this. Yeah, his son completely recovered the next day after he did 8 million things the day before.
Mm-hmm.
Slept a hard 10 hours, but little kids can do a lot.
Yeah, they can.
Old guys like me, not so much.
Yeah, probably somewhere in the middle, hopefully. So you talk about going once every 4 days.
Perfect.
In a perfect world.
You asked perfect world.
You said, so what I'm getting from you, in a perfect world, we're going to do spring ankle 3 times a day. Every day?
You can do that one every day because your feet recover very quickly.
Okay. So sprained ankle 3 times a day, every day, in a perfect world. And are there any other like supplemental things that you do that you would do in a perfect world?
It depends on the athlete.
Depends on the
Again, you got to know. I'm from Chicago, so you got to know what goes on a pizza. You can't put everything on a pizza. That's a good way to get beat up. So you know that like one or two things go on a pizza and that's it.
Yeah.
You're an out of towner when you start asking for 8 different things on your pizza. You're not from Chicago then, because it doesn't work. In Chicago, we know you put 1 or 2 things on your pizza and that's it. Same thing with training. You can do 1 or 2 things and that's it.
Okay.
Have a target. You can't take this thing and say, I've identified 8 different things that I don't like about your running, so I'm going to give you 64 different exercises, 8 exercises per thing that I see. Focus on the worst thing and see what change happens after you've taken out that one thing. Give them one thing to focus on. A lot of times it's feet. Most of the time it's feet. So you can do feet stuff every day. See what happens after you make that change. If you've got time and you know that you're going to have that person for 6 months, you can take a 6-week chunk and say, hey, we're putting all of our effort toward X. Let's see what happens. That's your job as an artist to figure out this is something that I can fix. And I think this is the linchpin that will change this machine. So focus on that one thing. Like with my track team, you got one thing that you're focusing on. You can't get out of the blocks. All right, for 6 weeks, you're just getting out of the blocks. I know you can sprint when you get down. That's not going to change. But if I can get you more velocity in your first 3 steps, that will have a huge impact what happens down the road.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I struggle personally with there's so many aspects of training and health. I want to do all these things. I want to have, 2 or 3 workouts a day. I want to incorporate every little thing. When in reality, I probably have some specific issues that if I just target those and get those completely better, overall, I'm going to probably see better gains, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I struggle with that a lot.
It's like you're painting the ocean. You got about 3 or 4 different shades that you can use, and you got to go with it. Nothing. You got to focus on that one thing. I like my pizza analogy better.
Pizza nut. You put pineapple on that pizza?
No, that's why people get shot in Chicago. It's the people who come in to put pineapple on pizza.
I better not go to Chicago then.
You get cheese, you get sausage, you get pepperoni, and maybe sausage mushroom. Veggie pizza got people, you're going to get beat up. You're going to get beat up.
I'll keep that in mind. I got family in Illinois now, so.
Where in Illinois?
Peoria.
Yeah, that's not Chicago.
Yeah, I know.
There's Chicago, and in Chicago, you live in Chicago or you live in Southern Illinois. Even though there's many towns north of Chicago, it's still Southern Illinois once you get outside of Chicago.
Huh. Never heard of that.
Yeah, that's how it works here.
Okay. That's funny. I'll have to talk to them about that. But what about like light plyos every day? Is that too much? Because kids play all the time.
Walking is plyometric.
Walking is
plyometric.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's true. So like low doses. I'm trying to put this all together in my mind.
I would just keep it. Give them the rest. Let them live life.
Yeah, keep it simple. Got it. What is one book that has changed like the way you coach or just the way you live your life in general?
I don't know.
Yeah, or you can give me a couple.
For coaching?
Yeah, or training, books I should read for training,
I think Cal Dietz's Triphasic Training is the best book out there.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get that.
You don't have it yet?
I don't have it yet. I have the online free high school version, but I don't like reading online because it kind of messes with my eyes sometimes. So
I don't think he prints it anymore. I know he doesn't print it anymore. It's all online.
Oh, okay.
We self-publish. We don't have a publisher.
Yeah.
We don't want to give up the half of the money.
That's true. Yeah. Okay.
I think Franz Bosch's stuff is good. I think all three of his books are excellent. I think Joel Smith does a good job putting everything together. I don't read. I've kind of gotten to the point where I learn more by watching people.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I've been doing this 35 years. So yeah, those are good starts.
Okay.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
you can be a masochist and read Super Training.
Super training.
It's a
Yeah.
good book. It's just it's heavy. It's long.
Yeah.
It's a classic. I don't know. I don't follow much anymore. I think I have enough knowledge to apply it. I still talk to lots of people and I read research and but after you've been doing this for 35 years, there's still lots of stuff to learn. I'm a long way from where I want to be, but I just don't think anyone out there right now, at least, it does. What they write doesn't account for my experience
Yeah.
and my background.
Gotcha.
I've coached high school for 30 some years. I've been doing this a long time. I'm almost done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, I guess, read your athletes.
Read my athletes.
Yeah, look at video, watch video. I mean, now I had my son my son's a drone pilot, and we're starting to use the drone to video people from all these different angles so you can see if you can see things differently.
Okay. So for me, would you say like more experience?
Go coach.
Go coach. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing rather than reading.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coach. I mean, reading's important.
Yeah.
I mean, I read lots of books, but nothing will pass up experience, because you can have this huge knowledge base, but then you've got an athlete that you've got to learn to communicate with, and you've got to learn to motivate, and you've got to get on the same page and see if you can get 5 people to do the same thing, to all move together, and keep them motivated, keep them focused. I mean, that's really the key.
Mm-hmm.
How together can you get everyone on this journey? And I think that's really the most important thing is, figure out what motivates that person, identify some things, communicate with them, and give them a pathway. Say, I think if we do this, I think this can happen. And it'll help you accomplish your goals, whatever those goals might be, whether it's a faster 40 or I want to, stuff that's tangible. You can't say, I want to score 18 touchdowns. Well, if you don't have an offensive line, you're not scoring 18 touchdowns. I can't train that, but tangible goals that someone can accomplish on their own. Numbers. But again, that's part of it. That's, figuring out your athlete and motivating them and then communicating what the pathway is. And being patient. I think, myself included, we get impatient with the program.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't sit in and let it ride out for a little bit.
Speaking of being impatient with like a program, I find myself maybe not giving enough time to certain types of training. I jump from training to different training. So I don't know how long, what?
You and me both.
Yeah. What's I guess a good time frame? Let's go like weeks or months to make yourself just stick to this training to see what kind of effect it gives? Like,
well, that's why you measure things, whatever you're measuring, whether it's vertical jump or your 10 meter or your 30 meter or whatever, you're looking for that change. And if you've sat in it for a couple of weeks, you're not seeing the change, then it's time to adjust. Ideally, you're going to see something change week to week.
Week to week. Wow. Okay.
That's really the magic. I think when Dan Fichter and I were into the DB Hammer stuff, he said you should be seeing a change every workout if you're hitting it right. And interestingly enough, he said when you're missing, you're not giving them enough rest.
Okay.
Which is opposite of what we do here, which is it's not happening. Well, maybe we need to work out twice a day or 3 times a day and do this much more instead of going less.
Less is more. I keep hearing that theme.
There's a point where you do too little too. You've got to find that balance. And that's why we measure everything. I measure every workout. You're timed or connected to something that's measuring you.
Okay. You use Freelap?
No.
What do you use?
I have I have a Swift timing system, which is phenomenal. And then I have a homemade Summit timing system that a guy named Ernie out in Colorado made for me. It's just a chronometer and connected to algae beams. That is my most dependable one because it's got really heavy tripods and they don't blow over in the wind.
That's nice.
But I use the Swift. We use the Swift and the Summit timers.
Okay. Thank you.
Swift is really high end, really good stuff. Really good stuff. It's just you have to run it through an iPad. I don't like that. I like a chronometer that just tells me how fast they run.
Yeah.
That's all I want to see.
Yeah, I think right now I'll probably not invest in something like that. I'll just stick to a stopwatch, but eventually I'd like to do that.
Stopwatches is really inaccurate. You don't
know that. Okay. So, here's a good question. What would be something cheap to like a lot of bang for your buck in regards to timing systems?
No such thing.
No such thing. Okay.
You get what you pay for.
Will do. Thank you.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah. You already mentioned a couple coaches like Cal Dietz, but who are some other that I should look into, maybe that have helped you personally grow in this field?
Dan Fichter's great. Who I talk to Dan Fichter and Cal Dietz all the time. Those are the people that I'm on the same wavelength with. I'm not saying we're better than everyone. It's just we all understand each other.
Mm-hmm.
I look at people online and, just like everyone else, some people have great ideas, but they're not communicated well. Some people are just really expensive. I don't want to pay that money for what they have. But again, if you get some basic ideas about, what you're doing and then you go coach and you take time to watch film of your athletes and ask questions and see what works and what doesn't work and figure out why things aren't working, I think that's the best coach that you have. When I was younger, I followed lots of people and I reached out to a lot of people. This is before the internet. You would write letters or call them on the phone and stuff like that. I was hungry for information. I'm still hungry for information, but that pool has narrowed for me. I've kind of become my own thing. I'm creative. I like to be creative. I like to try new things. With RPR, I just started seeing the body differently than most coaches do. Because I can put someone on the table and test muscles. And I have a friend, Sean Allen. He owns the Gate Guys. He's someone that's been really helpful. And he lives down the street from me, and we talk all the time. So you get it from a neurological, chiropractic, orthopedic viewpoint, where we would take athletes and he would put them on the table and test everything and see what works and what doesn't work, and we would figure out those patterns.
Yeah.
So again, it's that's how I learned. Sometimes the best people are the closest to you.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't have to go find someone from Montreal or something like that has an accent or anything like that to find really good people.
If I were to go try and find people, are there any clinics I should go to? Any specific ones?
I think we do a good job at TFC.
Yeah. I mean, obviously.
I mean, that was the goal of TFC, was to bring in outside the box thinkers to share what they're doing. And I've seen lots of great people at TFC clinics, and I always learn stuff there. And so we try to get the most innovative people we can find. And I go to clinics. I still go to clinics. I still see other people speak. So does Tony. We're always looking. So I think we do a nice job with our clinics.
Yeah, me too. Are all those online, or like also?
They are all for sale online.
It's a good plug. I'd like to ask you one question about the Achilles.
Okay.
Is the best way to train it like through your spring ankle, or is there any specific way that you train it?
Spring ankle.
Spring ankle.
Yeah, that's why we do it. And we've come up with a lot of variations on spring ankle, which we'll have out soon. I'll probably do that at the next TFC. But yeah, I mean, it's not a complicated thing. If you have a stiff foot, the tendon will do its job.
Okay. Because a lot of it's like being able to like absorb and
transfer energy. That's
what he does. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
That's all he does. Yeah, there's no special exercise or any. They haven't made a machine to deal with that yet.
Okay. So if you had, like in a perfect world, I guess, if you had perfect genetics, how would you train the kid from youth coming up?
What's like perfect genetics?
What?
What's perfect genetics?
Great tissue resiliency, great recovery, perfect body frame. I would say just your optimum height and bone length, maybe, like as they develop. So I guess my question, I'm going to reframe it. What would you like focus on as they're growing up?
Here's my dog. Here's one of my dogs.
Yeah. It's a big boy.
He's a big boy. What age?
Let's just start elementary school to junior high.
Perfect world?
Perfect world.
Play lots of sports, go play a lot, be outside a lot, go in the forest and run, ballet, Irish dancing, ballroom dancing.
Really?
Gymnastics, wrestling.
Huh.
Yeah.
Why is dancing's really good?
Yeah, especially for a kid. You got to learn to move and control your body, be spatially aware of you and someone else.
Yeah.
Perfect posture, perfect form.
Obviously for timing, that would help too.
Yeah. Dancing's great.
Dancing's great. For me, like dancing would be good too, right? Obviously.
Dancing's great. You have to be an athlete to dance. Who wins Dances with the Stars every time? Emmett Smith, Jerry Pace, all the athletes win that thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Play lots of sports. Go to open gyms. In Chicago, we got this place called Windy City Ninjas. It's a gymnastics room that he just opens up, and people can just go play on all the equipment, jump into mats, pits, swing on things. That's what kids are supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Go play sports, go try different sports, go learn new things. Challenge the body, give the body lots of problems to solve. Go wall climb. Go walk through a swamp and figure out how to walk through a swamp. Solve problems. That's what our brain wants to do, is solve problems. And we don't do that anymore. We sit in a room on a chair and don't solve problems and look at a little 1-inch screen.
Yeah, that's true. It's very sad.
But yeah, that in sprint, go sprint, go jump, go do stuff. Don't play one sport, play lots of sports.
Yeah, play lots of sports.
If you do ballet, just go do ballet for 8 weeks and then change. Go do ballroom dancing for 4 weeks. Go do Irish dancing for 8 weeks. Go do gymnastics for 8 weeks. Go wrestle for 16 weeks.
Got it.
Learn to fall. Learn to go do some some kind of martial art where you get thrown on your back, so you learn to fall. So you lose that fear of falling. Break those fear barriers and learn how to solve problems. That's how you become a great athlete. And learn how to control your body and move and compete.
Yeah. It's kind of like keeping your body guessing, I guess. You've talked about how you use different cushion like mats and stuff, and where you jump from a hard surface to a cushion to a hard surface to a cushion to try and keep your brain guessing. And that's kind of what we would be doing in the wild, right? So if you have your child, run from grass to stone or all these different surfaces, that definitely will help.
Yeah. Just go play. Go roll around.
Perfect. Well, my last question for you, where can people find you or contact you in some way?
My website is Slow Guy Speed School, reflexorperformance.com. I don't even know what my track football website is. I think it's trackfootballconsortium.com.
Yeah, I think so.
All those places have my phone number, my email, all that stuff.
Sounds good.
You got a hold of me pretty easily.
Yeah, I did. Thanks, Lee. It's great learning from you. I'm very blessed to have you on the show. I keep watching the videos.
Being relevant and being on a podcast.
Yeah, hopefully the podcast grows because I got good guests like you on. But
thank you.
Thank you for coming on, though. I really appreciate it.
No problem.